So you know usually when I'm walking down my driveway with the camera, that means it's new project alert, right? Well, we have another project.
This is a 2004 Porsche Cayenne. It's got a twin-turbo V8, it's all-wheel drive, and it's about to get absolutely chopped to pieces so I can harvest everything I need for this project. And when I say everything, I mean literally everything. I'm taking the engine, transmission, suspension, steering, brakes, and anything else that might be useful to the build. And what am I gonna do with all these parts? I'm putting them all in this, a 1971 Ford Bronco. That's right, we're gonna shove all that German engineering into this American box of freedom. There's a ton of work ahead of me. I'll be building a custom chassis that'll accept both the front and rear Porsche subframes. I'm gonna take this truck from a 2-door to a 4-door. I have to design custom bumpers, a custom roll cage, custom wiring, and so much more. On top of that, there's all the metalwork and repair work I have to do. This build is gonna be wild. So get comfy, grab a snack, and let's build us a Bronco. Before I even think about tackling rust, I gotta straighten out the body. And to do that, I'm gonna need a body jig. So let's make one.
All right, so this is gonna be a little tricky because we're good here, but over here, we're still kicked out. So I've got to bring this whole nose in a bit. check this out. This area here is not ideal. I don't like that. Now, what's crazy, you got a little bit of a gap here, where this is easy to fix. Everything else on this rocker is in the perfect spot relative to the door, relative to the jambs. It's level, but this area right here is just not right. Now, your first thought might be to take the pillar and shift it forward, but then that would take this perfect square and turn it into a trapezoid, which would then make a real problem for our door. So the long and short of it is, this is a problem area. I don't know why. I don't care. I'm not going to spend too much time thinking about it. I'm just going to slice this. Basically just cut this section out, hammer that back, line that back up, and then I'll have to make a fill-in piece here. The same's going to happen there too. It is what it is.
Hey guys, real quick, building custom cars is not cheap, and there's bills to pay. So let's take a second to show some love to the sponsor of this video, Bargain Molding. Bargain Molding buys direct from manufacturers, cutting out the middleman and passing the savings along to you. They have a fleet of trucks for fast deliveries and unheard of values. For example, they stock 1/2-inch thick, 4-foot by 8-foot PVC sheets for only $61 a piece. They also stock thousands of 1- and 2-panel doors in all sizes, including doubles. They have the best prices around. Right now, they're running a limited time deal of 5¼ inch speed base for only 65 cents a foot. This price is available in 8-footers only. Check out their huge inventory, prices, and deals at bargainmolding.com. That's right, bargainmolding.com to save thousands on your next project. Now, back to the build.
I don't know about you, but I'm really visual. All the designing and planning and dimensions in the world don't really mean anything to me. I have to see it, and this project is no exception. That being said, there still are some things that just have to go where they have to go. For example, your wheels. So in this case, there's gonna have to be some designs and dimensions. I'm gonna start by making these stands that are gonna hold the spindles in the correct location. And by correct location, I mean height-wise. We're going to be running a 35-inch tire, so 17½ inches is the center. This will give me a starting point for everything else, the subframe, engine placement, and so on.
I'm not really one to exaggerate, but this engine weighs about 5 billion pounds. I gotta get it on the engine stand, but it's not as straightforward as I want it to be. Turns out that these Porsches use these engine yokes to support them when they're on a stand, and they can be $500. So I'm just gonna make one. I use this method of making parts all the time, but I think now's a great chance to show you exactly what I'm doing. I start by taking a photo of the back of the engine. Now, if you notice, there's a ruler on it. That ruler is going to help me when I dump this photo into Fusion. I pick 2 points on the ruler and tell the software this is what an inch is. The photo will now be calibrated and dimensionally accurate. With that out the way, now we can have some fun and design and make our part. This is what I came up with. It's really similar to Porsche's, but I based it off material that I have on hand. I got some 1/2-inch plate laying around from when I did the Jet project, so I'm going to use this.
All right, so that fits. It's gonna clear the coolant bypass all the way around, which is good. Gives us tons of room. Really good.
I'm gonna get right to the point here. Super rusty metal, evapor rust, and an overnight bath.
That's really close. It's like the 16th. Good thing I'm wearing all this stuff, man, because that went right in my ear, but my earbuds kept it from turning into a situation.
Now, in case you're wondering why I'm removing this rocker differently from the way I did the other side, it's really to show you guys that there's more than one way to do things.
All right, so I have to address it because it just is what it is. It's not uncommon. I mean, you guys have seen it before on some of my other projects. There's always a surprise. It's always the last guy. So these things are notorious for rotting out, right? And it's not as straightforward a repair as people think, because like all cars, it's layers. It's layers of metal. So a lot of times to get to the actual repair is going to require you to get past several layers of material. So that's what happened in this case. They installed the pillar and it's in the right spot vertically. However, because the rocker was installed, and bottom line is they were just lazy, they never welded down here. And why that's important? Well, that's why. And if you look at the nose, watch this. All right, so think about that. Think about how critical this area is. That it'll affect the position of the nose. It'll affect the position of the door. It'll affect everything. On top of that, the first thing that stood out to me were these rivets. So basically, they didn't have the proper means to weld it. They threw a couple rivets in it, and they threw this random piece of sheet metal here that is clearly oversized, because you see it here hanging past the fender. This repair was just like doomed from the beginning. But I'm going to keep the pillar because it's new. It's in the right spot up there. I can just back this out and I can get all the nice pretty welding action back there and we'll be good to go. But I just think it's worth noting that, like, sometimes I have no idea who it was here before. I have no idea, you know, if it was the personal owner or if it was a shop. All I'm going to say, though, is that sometimes you got to stop while you're ahead. This repair is pointless if it doesn't solve the problem of being able to close the door. None of this was connected. Look. It was never connected, ever, anywhere here. This door was never going to ever close right, no matter what. So I went to test fit the rocker, and look at that tightness. That is not good. The door is literally on the rocker. And the rocker's definitely in the right spot. The door's been adjusted. As you can see, the door lines up there. So if I move the door up, we're going to lose that line. Sounds like the rocker's coming down. Fun. Now, aside from the rocker that I have inside the shop, I have these three others as well. And one thing I noticed about this middle one is that it's about 3/16 taller than the one to the left of it. And this one's about 1/8 taller than the one to the right of it. So I'm going to assume that that's a large one as well. I'm going to see if that one fits any better. If not, then I may have to start drilling out some spot welds and moving some things around. But as it stands right now, it's not going to work. All right, change of plans. Because this rocker's annoying me, what I'm going to do is mount the door, the fender, my temporary grill support, and I'm going to move on to the next thing, which is cutting the bed off this, because it's taking too long to get to that step. And if there's any one thing I've learned over the years, is that sometimes you need to just move on to something else. If you're not making progress in one thing, work on something that you might be able to make some progress on. So that's what we're doing. So let's pivot. So we're not just going to add 2 doors to the Bronco and call it a 4-door. The rear doors are actually going to be suicide doors, but on top of that, for the sake of proportion, I'm going to make them a bit smaller. After going back and forth, I feel like 28 inches is a good number for what these doors should be. So let's get to cutting. Sometimes the right tool for the job is the wrong tool. In this case, a paint scraper. This thing does a great job of wedging in between the door skin to open it up without leaving any marks. On top of that, you've seen me use this to remove spot welds and other pieces of metal throughout the project. They're cheap, they're easy to get, and they just work.
Oh, my beautiful. Oh, that's so beautiful. Oh.
All right, and just like that, we got our first suicide door. I'm really digging how it looks. I had to remove a good amount, but I think it was worth it. Yeah, all right, enough celebrating. Let's get back to it. All right, now don't criticize, don't go crazy, don't flip out about the lines. We're still early in the process. This door still needs to be significantly adjusted. You see we have like no gap here and a pretty big gap here, which is then pushing this corner down here and pushing it up here. This seam isn't going to be here in the end. This will all be one piece when it's done. I still have a ton of adjustment to do on this door. And on top of that, this door, let's see if you can see it. You see, if you look towards the middle of the door, the skin actually has a bow, which I'm gonna have to work out. For some reason, this corner is lower than the rest of the door. So yeah, the moral of the story is, you know, we're early in the process. Don't get too crazy. Don't worry about what you're seeing just yet. What's important to me is getting this bottom line straight, which it almost is, right? Making sure that these gaps are gonna be lined up well. This still has to get pushed in. There's so much work to do. On top of that, if you know anything about these Broncos, even in tip-top shape, they're still crooked pieces of shit. So there's a long way to go, but it's looking like something. I don't know what that something is just yet, but ugh, that does look bad on the screen though. Don't worry, my friends. We're gonna be all right. Let's just keep it pushing.
Guys, check it out. So we've got the very, very, very basics of a Porsche powered 4-door Bronco with suicide doors. I'd call episode 1 a win. All right, so that brings us to the end of episode 1. The Porsche Cayenne powered 1971 Ford Bronco project is well underway. And as you can see, we got a decent amount done. But there's no reason to celebrate just yet because there is a ton of work still ahead of it. But we got a lot of awesome plans for this project. So why don't you do me a favor and subscribe while you're here. Maybe even hit that like button. And if you're really feeling nice, you can throw a comment in there. That'd be cool. All right? Till next time.